My name is Jen Wood from FITSNews, and today I'm joined by Marcus and Teresa Mims, along with Ron Heron, to discuss a tragic story that has captivated many. Marcus and Teresa are the parents of 20-year-old Kendall Mims, who was arrested on October 5th alongside Brandon Barnes and Victoria Tippett in connection with the murder of Jessica Barnes. We published our initial article featuring their heartbreaking story on December 5th. The Mims family, described as an exceptionally tight-knit family, has been deeply affected by these events. Marcus and Teresa, and along with Ron, shared their shock and heartbreak over the story that's unfolded, and they have also very bravely provided additional details about the abuse and control that their daughter Kendall endured prior to Jessica's murder. Their relationship to the story is both personal and profound as they navigate the legal and emotional challenges stemming from their daughter's alleged involvement in such a crime. Today, we'll hear directly from Marcus, Teresa, and Ron about their journey and the resilience they've shown in the face of unimaginable loss, as well as their mission to shed light on the complexities surrounding this tragedy. Thank you all for being here and being willing to share your story with us. I think there's a lot of things that have been put out that I think it's important to correct the narrative.
Thank you.
So let's start. Before Brandon Barnes entered your daughter's life, your life, you had a very close-knit family. Can you tell me about Kendall growing up, raising her and her brother?
She was the girl between two boys, triplets, a feisty one, but quiet, uh, loving, caring for uh, senior adults and kids, loving to play with you kids younger than her, um, and we just loved her. I mean, she was invested and fully inseparable with her brother, and um,
They would speak their own language. They would have each other's friends. They would, um, like I said, like he was saying, that Kendall was very quiet, and she basically depended on her brother. Um, so she befriended people, like he said, that were younger than her and older than her, like senior citizens that she felt comfortable with. We would have game nights and we would do mission trips and we would she would be real active in the church. We would do a lot of family things together that like normal families do. Um,
our family revolved around the church, just being in ministry, and always with youth groups and everything. So uh, that's where our heart was, and um, until he crept in.
Yeah.
she always had the heart for those that, maybe did not feel like they were accepted or that they were felt like they just didn't fit in.
And
Um,
she had dreams of becoming a biomedical engineer.
yeah,
And I thought that was interesting. I mean, for specific reasons, she wanted to help veterans.
exactly. We would go and visit her great grandfather, my grandfather, about 100 years old, in the nursing home, and she would just see people there and that needed help, and she wanted to design prosthetics and help those veterans and make their lives, a better place. The kids would play checkers, they would play chess, they would do different things with the elderly, especially that did not have family or didn't have anybody to come visit them. They were like, hey, Bill, you're just really, you're, that was my grandfather's name. It's just like, you're very special to be able to have these kids come and visit you and take time and make cards for you and that kind of thing. So,
And they also visited a lot of his friends that were there as well.
Right.
She actually had the grades and the mindset to accomplish that. I mean, having hopes is one thing, but her grades and her staying up late night and studying and doing what it took, modeled that she could actually accomplish that. So
and she graduated high school with honors, and she was going to college on a scholarship when she met Brandon, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was her sophomore year of college, or?
It was her second semester of freshman year.
Okay. And, that's an adjustment, but she was working and going to classes, and adjusting to that life pretty well, you think?
Yes.
Had Kendall before she met Brandon, young lady, did she date often, or was her dating experience fairly limited?
Boyfriends like her last couple of years of high school. One was not the fit for her as in a relationship goes. Another one, like senior year and all, he was really great, nice young man. Yeah, our family liked him a whole lot, but it was a long distance relationship, so that just didn't work out.
Right.
Still with being long distance.
So,
but I mean, she was again, very shy, and she just didn't really go out that much.
Kind of a homebody.
But
yeah,
sweet.
So Brandon Barnes came into your life fairly unexpectedly and suddenly. Can you tell me a little bit about how Brandon and Kendall met?
From what we understand, they met online at a dating app. We've always said don't do dating apps, but that's
social
what happened. She wanted to go to a Super Bowl party that she was invited to with him. But just to be respectful, we always like to meet the boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever, for our kids first, and make sure we know, who they are, who they're going to be with, where they're going, that kind of thing. So Kendall arranged a lunch time so that we could meet with Brandon and meet him.
And that was the first time she had met him in person as well, as far as you know.
As far as we know.
Okay.
Of course, when they meet on computer, they treat that like
FaceTime. You see each
real meeting.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went and met him at this restaurant, a neutral location. So he didn't have your address yet because you didn't know him.
Right.
That first meeting, were there red flags? Were you kind of instantly thinking, oh, I don't like this?
He couldn't look me in the eyes. He was on his phone all the time. We have rules in our family about technology at the table, and he literally could not stay off his phone. And I couldn't trust anything he said because there was mixed nonsense in what he did, when he didn't have ability to share examples of he wanted to be a rap star. And I said, ask for him in music, but he couldn't share that. And just a lot of mixed signals that told me I didn't know this kid at all.
Right. Did Kendall seem comfortable with the situation, or was she kind of like, ooh?
But she didn't want us to embarrass her.
Yeah.
I tried not to.
I've been there recently.
I mean, even like, what kind of foods do you like? We were trying to be polite. We said it's on us. He couldn't tell us. And then he told us what to order. He refused to eat it. I mean, to us, that was a little disrespectful.
Just weird.
And, so I was like, well, Kendall, have you heard any of his music or anything, and she's like, she kind of was blank stare. And I'm like, well, we'd like to hear it. He's like, oh, it's on the breaking edge. We can't, it's a secret right now. So, and we knew that was big red flag.
So the big thing about meeting him is she wanted to go to a Super Bowl party at his house. And this was early February 2000. 23. I think we looked at the date of Super Bowl that year, and it was like February 12th, I believe. Um, so, you go meet him, and, you still have concerns, but you did eventually agree to let her go to this party. What happened to make, like, what pushed you to make that decision?
Well, we did say, who he was staying with, his like stepmom at the time. I said, well, I would like to meet her first. And obviously, Super Bowl party was that day. So we FaceTimed. She introduced herself and she, was like, hey, it's just a typical family Super Bowl party. It's going to be a lot of adults here. We spoke of kind of what our expectations were. She's underage. We want her home at a certain time, just to keep her safe because we don't know these people.
Right.
And she, the stepmom, definitely, assured us, everything's good right now. He's borrowing my car because his is in the shop. He'll have her home at a certain time, just making you feel like everything is safe and she'll be, secure in that environment.
Plus, we trust our daughter.
Right.
We raised her tough and to be able to make decisions, and so we had just no idea what he was capable of.
Right. And you trust her, and you also checked in with an adult that was at own the home that she was going to.
Right.
So seems reasonable. That party,
Just about his age, just to verify. Excuse me, I didn't
that's a
mean to
good, I mean,
because he could tell me, hey, I'm 20, but he could lie. And
right.
so I was like, I need proof, honestly. And
Did he show us his license?
no, because he actually did not have a driver's license that we did not know about. Yes.
Oh,
Later on, we found out he had never had his driver's license. Yes. But no, I wanted to see his birth certificate, and he actually had it. And I took a picture of it. So that helped me later on with the police too, and finding my daughter. But
I mean, it's smart. I mean, it's just stuff that you didn't know would be useful eventually. But you must have had some mother's instinct that you must have deep down been like, oh,
even brother had. He was even like, I did not like him when I met him.
It's interesting, and the not making eye contact and being on his phone at the table. I think that's fascinating. And things. So she goes to this party. The relationship. From that point to when you first meet him and she goes to that party, things spiral quickly, which surprised me.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I got a text that was February 12th. And then the 22nd, which is about 2 weeks later, basically, Cookie, who was the person that he was staying with, but like his stepmom or foster parent or whatever, she started texting me. And this was really early in the morning, like 1 a.m. or something. I'm like, what is going on? And I would like to read some of the information just so that I don't misquote her, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
She started saying, Brandon had charges on him from an ex-girlfriend for a DVO, and he had killed Cookie's daughter's dog and threw him in front of a semi. This is what she reported to me. It was hard to go to sleep at night because once Brandon finds out I'm telling you this, I don't know what he will do. He is a game player and a gaslighter. He can be violent. Your poor daughter is submissive to him and he controls her. You guys seem like a very good family and stuff, and I just couldn't sit around and listen and watch him destroy this girl. talking about Kendall. He is deceiving and manipulative, and you deserve the truth. A social worker has been out of my house because he killed my daughter's dog, and she said he needs to be out of my house by March 9th. She, speaking again of Kendall, seems like a sweet, innocent girl, but I don't know what he is doing to her. I just cannot sit back and let him drag your daughter down with him. He also spilled gasoline on her clothes. He filled up her gas tank supposedly, and now her tire is flat. It looks like it's been sliced. I don't know if he did it just to keep her here or what. So it's important that we were like,
It'd have been nice to know this stuff when we talked to.
You're 2 weeks in, and you get a text from this woman that assured you everything was okay,
right,
indicating it is absolutely not okay.
Absolutely. So we try to call and speak with her. We're like, hey, what is going on here? What? Do we need to call the police? What is your physical address? Because, I mean, I wanted to make sure we had it right because we knew they lived in a different county, probably an hour or so away from us. So we wanted to make sure we had the right police involvement. And she did guide us to that. But I'm like, you better fix that tire. We're coming now.
So had she like called you and said, I can't come home because the tire's flat?
Yeah, she was saying that there was a delay. And I'm like, no, you got school tomorrow, that you're out way too late. I mean, yes, a lot of people would say, hey, she's 19. But no, this was not like her. And we knew we had bad vibes about him. And now I'm receiving this information from someone that technically lied to me weeks prior, assuring me that everything was fine and safe. And now it's saying I can't lie to you anymore. This is a scary, scary thing.
So March,
We were already in the car heading there with talking on the phone with a friend detective and looking at the app that would let us know where they are from the phone, Life 360 or 65, whatever it's called. And that's just how we want to keep finding our cell phones. That's how we take care of our family, to know where they are.
So did you get up there that night?
Halfway, and they met us so we could make sure that she was safe.
Not they. Kendall was in the car by herself.
Right by herself,
and
yes.
She met us at a gas station because we could see with the Life 360 where she was located. And we called, are you okay? You know, again, I don't think she was aware of the information that Cookie revealed to me. And I wasn't going to go in detail on the phone because obviously that would probably put her in danger.
Right. So all right, so you have this on the 22nd. And she says he's got to be out of her house where he's living by March 9th. What happens right after this?
So red flags everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I need your phone. You know, I used to know her code. I mean, that's the thing, you know, we could pay for their phones, but they give us their codes. I mean, it's just good parent to try to check their phones, you know. It wouldn't go through. So I said, I need your code now or I'm taking away everything, your phone, your car, you know, we'll get you to school, we'll get you to work. But, you know, so she gave it to me. I mean, she wasn't reluctant.
This isn't because we didn't trust her. This was our fear because of him.
Right.
Right.
All this information we were being given. So then basically her brother and I, like the next night, basically, or afternoon after school, we said, put your phone in a different room because I would go in there, kiss the kids good night because they were living with us at home while they were in college to save money and they had full scholarships. And, you know, it was just coming out of COVID, adapting to college life and all. This is why they were living at home and all. But I would just say good night, and I would just find him saying good night, and I'm like, how creepy.
Brandon?
You know,
He was on the phone watching her while she slept.
He was like FaceTiming her, and she would fall asleep because obviously she had to go to school.
He wanted to keep an eye
the
on her.
next day, and he wanted to make sure he
Yeah.
knew what she was doing at all hours.
Oh, that is weird.
So I was feeling like, you need to put your phone in another room. Let's talk in the stairway. So her brother and I did kind of an intervention saying, look, what we're about to tell you is new information, but you cannot tell Brandon because your life could be in danger or our lives could be in danger. And I don't even know if she really heard it all. I'm sure he came up with, an excuse of different things about DVO or whatever. But he took her a couple of days after, literally.
He was able to strip from her even the passwords that we've taught her to say if you're around somebody and you're in danger.
Right. We had a secret.
He was able to get everything from her.
Yeah.
Just all of that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We had a secret code. So it's like, if you ever get in a dangerous situation or an uncomfortable situation, text this code, call, mention this particular thing. We know with no questions asked, we'll come get you. We'll talk later. It was just to make sure that our kids are okay.
So you said he took her. So tell me about, and this is, you guys first met him around Super Bowl, February 12th, and we're going into about just over 2 weeks later. You have this intervention, you find out all of this information, you talk to her about what's going on, tell her not to share it, and what happens after that point?
Well, in that 2 weeks, her friends were concerned for her.
Okay.
Yeah, there were some friends that said, look, we're not going to watch you crash and burn. If you don't leave him right now, we just can't even be friends with you because we can't watch this train wreck. And they didn't contact me. They didn't contact our family, didn't tell us, to give us a heads up, obviously. But she did have a friend that she sometimes, I guess, probably convinced, hey, I got this boyfriend, and if you can just kind of hang on to my phone for a little bit so it shows like I'm still at school, and I'll take your phone so I have a phone if something happens. I don't really know how that happened, but somehow that's how it occurred. But this friend knew her well, and she was concerned because Kendall did not show up for college for her class, her engineering class that morning. And she knew this was very not Kendall. She was a very studious student. So she called me at work and she reported to the police campus.
Police.
I think she's missing. I think somebody took her. But I don't know. She called me. I said, yeah, her Life 360's been turned off. What's going on? I kept calling and calling, no answer. So at that point, I called Marcus.
She's at school, I'm at school, and we panic because our baby has disappeared.
So we get not only the campus police are involved, but also the county police are now involved. First, they're just like, yeah, it's probably girlfriend, boyfriend type thing, just, taking off or whatever. But we're like, there's nothing really missing. There was no clothes missing.
She didn't pack anything. She
it wasn't
only took some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Medals, Olympic medals.
Yeah, some medals that
That's
she
not
had
weird, yeah.
from that she had gotten from
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics meet that she had won.
Graduation gown.
Graduation cap and gown. And just there were some things like there was a special kitty cat that was with her in NICU. But it wasn't any undergarments. It wasn't clothes. It wasn't a toothbrush. It wasn't a pillow. It wasn't like somebody's going, hey, I'm planning to run away and that kind of thing. It was just odd. It was very off.
So the police initially kind of assume it's just teenage drama and boyfriend, girlfriend, possibly a runaway. How did you convince them to take you seriously?
I was persistent. I had documentation of everything that Cookie sent me, that friends gave me, that I had been looking on her phones. And I'm just like, he even said stuff like he wanted to marry her. And so I knew.
Love bomb.
Yeah, he'd been love bombing her constantly with gifts and stuff. And he's like, I want her and I'm going to keep her. I mean, I would find stuff in her phone. She's mine, and stuff. So I'm just like, okay, this is creepy for somebody that just met someone. I gave the police all this documentation. I said, hey, if you want to talk to some friends. And then I started mentioning Gabby Petito. And I'm like, what? She was acting like she was in this relationship and she was in an abusive relationship. There was a lot of problems there. I said, I don't have good vibes about this guy. If they're telling me that he did all these harmful things and he has a DVO, that he was in jail with this and possibly harmed a child, what? I mean, I was just blown away. But I gave all this documentation to the police. And then they go, okay, I'm going to call her on her phone and see if she picks up. Well, Brandon picked up.
Okay.
They overheard conversations. They didn't like what they heard about how controlling he seemed. I told them they needed to do, a background check on him to make sure they knew that this person wasn't just giving me information that was not
About
true.
the prior domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it all seemed to be checking out. So yeah, they didn't like what they were hearing or seeing. And then he started sending me like pictures of her lethargic and sleeping and just passed out. And I said, are you drugging her? I mean, because this isn't her. I mean, she works a job. She goes to school full time. This isn't her. I mean, I'm sure she's tired, but a college 19-year-old kid's not going to be that lethargic.
Right.
He did not answer me. He would say things like, turn over her social security card, give me that information, or you won't see her again. I mean, he was saying all kinds of junk.
He was saying that they were heading to New York. He dropped that, and we didn't trust anything he said. And so, I mean, I was actually calling homeless shelters and trying to find, if anybody had seen her. And a girl said that she was Kendall, and we thought we had found her walking along the street, and it was somebody else who, I don't know, just identified as her.
Yeah.
And stuff. So we were just panicking.
We were getting calls like at 3 a.m. by the police. Oh, one thing I didn't tell you is before he took her, he called a well check. He had his sister call a well check because I took away her phone because I was making sure that he would not keep watching her at night. And the police knocked on the door like at 2, 3 a.m. saying, hey, his sister said that Kendall needs a well check. And he kind of laughed it off like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I said, no, that's fine. I mean, she's safe in bed asleep. He goes, well, you got to wake her up because I need to talk with her.
Right.
So I went up to speak to Kendall. She goes, why did you call the police, Mom? And I'm like, I didn't. Your boyfriend called the police. How ridiculous is that? She goes, why would he do that?
Controlling.
And it was because I took her phone away where she could not communicate with him and he could not get her to answer to him. He freaked. And he's like, I'm doing a well check on her. So then right after that, she was
That's
taken.
when he thought you were taking that line of communication away.
Yeah. So the police already knew about that too. So it was all kind of, evidence was accumulating.
So they eventually locate the two of them in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys go down there to...
Dropped everything.
Okay. Right in the car.
Got there late and realized we just need to spend the night in the hotel and work out a safe, because we didn't know what environment we were getting into. And knowing the area, if you knew the area, it's just really unnerving. And so We spent the night and then met up with them in the morning in the sunlight
Because it was like a long dirt road that was like deserted.
in
There
the
was
woods. No,
no houses around other than they were staying with Brandon's biological dad who had gotten out of prison himself. And so he owned a junkyard. He didn't own a junkyard, excuse me. He
worked
worked
at a
at a
junkyard.
junkyard. And so I guess Brandon's like, I have nowhere else to go, so I'm taking her here.
Okay. So police did accompany you out there.
No. They had met with when they found where they were. They
Okay.
put hopefully I was hoping the fear of God in them with several police officers, but because of their age, there's nothing they could have done
Okay.
except that the reason we were able to locate him was her name was on the car.
Right. So I had to report my car as stolen, which is very true because, first of all, I didn't
He
know
drove it.
He drove it. He took it from Kendall.
Right.
It was Kendall's car, but it was under my name as well because she was 19. But she knew, like, hey, I don't go out of the state without permission. I don't go taking off of my car. Definitely don't let other people drive it.
And she's afraid to drive that fast. And he even damaged the car.
Oh, okay.
So we knew it was him.
That's how they ended up finding them in Georgia.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you
And
go.
he would send freakish videos to her brother.
Okay.
And I would report those to the police, and the police would go, "Okay, well, where are they?" And we're like, "I don't know. It was like a farm. We don't know." So Brandon kept just sending videos. I'm like, "Okay, bring it." So eventually, they also figured it out by the videos that he would send.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys go out there as a family. And I mean, the conditions that you found them staying in were horrific. I mean, I remember you saying it shocked you. Can you tell me about it?
He had a camper that he got from the junkyard and pulled it up next to, not to talk down on the environment of his father where he lived, but just not what Kendall has grown up accustomed to, having a refrigerator and a bathroom and having all these different things. And so they were living, she was all frumpy clothes. He had changed her whole look to where she was pale, skinny, oversized hoodie, all black. Was she barefooted?
Yeah.
When she walked up, were animals, nasty environment that just scared us in how she looked and that she was not receiving care.
And there were holes all on the top of the camper, so when it rained, it would go into
inside. It rained inside.
Yeah, and so I mean, we had to go buy a tarp. I mean, we wanted to give at least survival skills because it broke our heart. We didn't want her there, but obviously we couldn't force her because the police said I cannot keep him in handcuffs this whole time. I know that your report is stolen car. You can get your car back, but what do you want to do? We cannot force her to go back. So we just tried to give tools at least of survival.
So she would live.
Come back. Mm-hmm.
And I could not figure out or notice anything from her to give me any clue not to leave her there. I was looking for everything possible, but she was just torn down. And there's no password, there's no nothing. And all I could think of, because at this point we didn't know he was a murderer. We didn't know who he was. And so they still, in our minds at that point, ran off together. We didn't know that she was taken as much as we were looking for any clue. So I didn't leave my baby. We didn't leave our baby there. And we couldn't, she said I didn't see a sign.
You had to make some tough decisions when you finally left, do some tough love, and you took the car with you.
We did. And Brandon was like, how could you do this to your child?
Oh, yeah, he
How
pulled,
could you, pull like,
push the buttons of
yeah.
sympathy.
How could you leave her, abandon her with no car? What is she supposed to do now? Well, really, what was he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Because he needed the car. And the nearest like gas station, food source, anything was like 30 miles away.
Not quite that, but yes.
Probably.
That's how desolate this place was.
It was very,
This restaurant was a gas station.
and that's where they would go and eat.
That's where we took them to eat. Wasn't that visit, second visit? Because we were shocked that we were having to leave her there.
Yeah.
But
we brought back another vehicle
Yeah.
that was something at least safe so she could get back home.
that was LoJack.
Yeah.
This was the time that we needed to say, hey, we need any kind of evidence to know where. And thanks to a amazing great granddaddy,
Yeah.
we made sure this one was LoJack and the rest of them were granddaddy.
So you did give her an older car eventually and put a tracker in it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because your concern was they would just take off
Disappeared.
and you had no clue.
Who knows? He had already said they were going to New York. Who knows where he would take her next?
Right.
So that's how we knew we could know where they were.
So he was just thinking, oh, got her car, okay. And so, but we had different plans. Obviously, we just wanted to make sure she was safe. Yeah.
And so they lived there for, a few months. Were you able to talk to her while they were there?
Occasionally, mostly Brandon took control over the conversations. The only thing she kept repeating over and over is peaceful here. And I'm like, it is not peaceful here. There is no form of peace in here. He would send me videos of dead squirrels that he would kill over a fire. Like, guess what's for dinner tonight? I mean, just to get, a reaction from me, I think, because just to break my heart. But she just kept repeating those words. And we're like, no, this isn't Kendall. She's like a shell of a person. I mean, it's like she's more intellectual than that. Just to keep saying, it's just peaceful here. None of that makes sense.
And so at one point over Easter, that year, 2023, he agreed to allow her to come home to see the family.
For one day. Yep.
One day. That visit, she displayed some alarming behavior that visit.
Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, she was so excited to get to come home, and then as we were leaving, he just kind of like gave her the guilt trip. I can't believe you're leaving me. I've never had a family to love me. I've never known what being with a real family is. And that's what Kendall is such drawn to, people that feel not heard, not seen, not loved. I mean, that's just, he knew that. He knew. He pulled her heartstrings. So now she was sad. But as we were going, I think he purposely locked his keys in the car so she would have to turn around, or we would have to pay for a locksmith to get into the car so he could get into his camper. We just decided, hey, we're going to just pay for this locksmith because we're traveling on. We got our daughter. We're going, and we were going to South Carolina to my dad's and have our traditional family Easter. But the whole time he gave her heartache and kind of made her feel like maybe he was going to harm himself if she didn't come back. So she was like a recluse. She was catatonic, like, I don't want to, take a warm shower, like get a warm shower, because we knew they didn't have good running water.
She didn't want to get used to that, though. She didn't want to, even eating, she wouldn't eat because she knows she's going to go back and not have that there.
She would sit outside of the, like in the garage area, and it was kind of cold. It was in March, I think, that year Easter was. It was kind of cold and wet, and she would sit out there. We're like, it's freezing out here. Come inside. And she would just sit there. And then she wouldn't, like we said, sit on furniture. She wouldn't take a warm shower. She wouldn't eat her favorite foods.
Just
girl
out of
was.
character.
Yeah,
All of this is
everything.
out of character before he came in.
Yeah. And so we're just like, she's totally different. This is not our Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, they met, I mean, from February to Easter in March, that's not
Yeah.
that long. And you're seeing alarming personality changes in her. And she was supposed to stay and go to church services on Sunday with you, which is, I mean, something that is that's your family tradition. It's something she enjoyed.
Absolutely. Grew up in the church, loved church, and very, that's what we did. We're always in church at Easter, and we went, and we were going to go, and at midnight, we get prepared to wind down for the night. Knock, knock, knock on the door was Brandon. Now, he was supposed to be in Georgia, so it's like, what in the world? He's there to take her home. And we're like, I know midnight is Easter, but no, we have not had our Easter. We have not gone to church. We've not had. And so he's like, well, she called me and she wants, to go home back with me. And that was a pure lie. That he tried to blame everything on her. Like, yeah, I only had like $22 in my whole bank account, and now it's going to cost that much to get gasoline. And he just tried to blame everything on her, but basically she went with him.
And we tracked him on the GPS.
Because we had the tracker. And he basically
crashed at a gas station.
Yeah. We didn't know if he ran out
Midway.
of gas or what, but basically they spent the night
In the car at a gas station.
Instead of just letting her stay with you guys for the night.
Right.
So that continues, that pattern just continues. And eventually Grandpa, Ron, comes up with a plan to at least get her somewhere safe.
Well, we had talked about that, but he jumped the gun by mentioning that to Kendall, and listen how rapidly that developed through Ron.
Well, like Trish said, the junk trailer, the camper that they pulled up in the yard, when it rained outside, it rained inside, and Kendall called me and told me that, they were wet and cold, and they didn't have any heat in the place. No running water.
No sewage. You didn't know how to change the sewage in the camp.
No, and she did tell me that the commode had quit working, but eventually Brandon fixed that. He went outside and unscrewed, trailers have a holding tank.
Right.
He went out and unscrewed the cap, and it went out all in the yard.
Fixed.
Right by the door.
That's all fixed.
So, I just couldn't stand her living in those conditions when I knew we had what we called a pool house that was in great condition, had heat, air conditioning, refrigerator, stove, sink, bathroom, and a living room. So I just called her and I said, it's here. If you want to come, you can. And I said, now it'll take me a week or so because I had some exercise equipment out there. It was a man cave. But she called me back and said, we're coming now. And they arrived about 2:00 in the morning. We're here. So I went out and opened a pool house. And again, we called it a pool house because there used to be 5 years earlier a pool out there. And that's why we called it a pool house. So anyway, they came and moved in and everything was fine. They said, oh, don't worry about your stuff. It'll be fine. We just have a place to sleep. And they had it's 5-inch flat screen TV out there, and so, but it wasn't too long till that wasn't good enough for Brandon. He wanted my stuff out of there, and I find it. I have a little warehouse on the property, and I'd go out there and I'd find something from the pool house out there. Some of his destructiveness. There was a picture
Picture of you and your wife. Ear damaged.
that had been out there for 20-something years. I thought it was missing. I said, "Man, where's my picture?" He said, "Oh, the cats knocked it off." And I found it, and the glass was busted out, the hanger was gone. So it's just, he's just a destructive person.
He basically tore up tons of stuff in there,
Yeah.
from the TV to the
Microwave.
wall sockets, saying cats somehow messed that up.
Yeah.
Doors.
And I told him, Mama, he said, "This socket out here, electrical, isn't working. You need to fix it." I went out there and it was busted out of the wall. And I said, "Brandon, how'd this happen?" "Oh, the cats did it." I said, "You want me to believe the cats busted this outlet out of the wall?" "Well, that's what happened." So anyway, I got that fixed. Had a light in the bathroom, found it out behind the warehouse. It was busted up. The microwave oven, the door was, it's got a glass door on it. It was busted. It was just, and the flat screen TV, he busted it up, and he said, "Oh, I'll replace it when we leave."
Just no respect, not knowing what it meant to us. And let me interject that Brandon was not invited.
No.
This was for Kendall.
Yeah.
Brandon followed Kendall,
Well,
and
he
then
brought her and wouldn't
would
let
not
her
let-
come
yeah,
without him.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a closed deal. If you don't let me stay, she's not staying.
But, for you guys, having at least knowing that she was there, that she was
Stay
safe.
That's the main purpose.
alive.
But-
We didn't approve of his relationship. He even asked me if he could have her hand in marriage, and I said over my dead body. I said, "Hell no." And I'm a minister, and we believe in family. We believe in marriage. We believe in family, and so that we were not approving of their relationship. We just needed Kendall close
Right.
enough to make sure she's safe.
Right.
And, the short story of the long saga proved out that we had Kendall, and although he refused to let me see her, I would, because I had the tracking on the cars, I would know when she was coming home from work, and I'd manage to be out in the carport and out in the yard, and when she come in, I'd give her a hug and tell her I loved her, and they refused for us to see our daughter, and they would be out in the yard, and I'd go out there. I'd just walk out there and speak to her and see her, and as it turned out, the day that they were arrested, I was coming home, and Kendall called me and said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm about 5 minutes away. I'll be there in just a little bit." So when I walked up, the sheriff was there, and she handed me her daughter and left, and that was the last time we saw it. And talk about being unprepared. I had no idea, and at 81, but soon to be 82, that wasn't my idea of what retirement. Was.
Right.
But, you know, it's been great. She's such a joy.
So when did, while they were living in the pool house, you were able to keep an eye on her. When did you realize that she was pregnant with Brandon's baby?
So I would get crazy stuff from Brandon through Kendall's phone, because obviously he used her phone a lot, like pregnancy tests and different things like that. And they weren't true. So
he would just send you like ultrasound photos randomly.
He would send me pregnancy tests. He would say just all kinds of off the wall things. He even told me like when he took her, all that was going on, and it wasn't. So I didn't believe it, but finally there was an ultrasound that was done in August, but I ignored it again because Kendall did not say anything to me. So I waited. So about mid-September, she finally told us. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, your background is, you've got a medical background, you're a nurse, and you've got, your child's having a baby. And she talked to you about that. Were you able to give her some guidance?
Definitely. I was like, well, you're going to have to sign up for government assistance because my insurance doesn't work in another state.
Right.
So she understood that. I said, it's very important to have prenatal care. And she knew that.
Okay.
And I'm like, hey, they got parenting classes. They've got all kinds of things that, you need to do. And she was also working because Brandon, said she had to work, of course. She was supposed to go back to school, but Brandon wouldn't allow that because, it had to be online only because she couldn't be around other individuals her age and that kind of thing. But anyway, so she's like, okay, Mom, we'll get things set up. And I just tried to keep an eye on her. A lot of times he would say, don't ask questions to me. We'll take care of things. You stay out of the picture. But she would ask me questions and I would check on her and make sure she's okay. And I would kind of give her, this is what happens this month and that month and that kind of thing.
Now, at some point during that we're talking, this is the summer of 2023 and then going into the fall of 2023. Jessica Barnes, I heard, that's her married name because eventually she did actually marry Brandon, unlike Kendall, who is not married to Brandon. Let's make sure that is very clear. But Jessica appeared in the picture over that summer. And when she started showing up with the two of them, what was your understanding of her presence in their relationship?
They supposedly met in July. I did not see her then. I think I met her maybe in November.
Okay.
She was brought to her house.
Yeah. So I don't know. You might can speak more of. They said they met at the lake, but I don't.
She was introduced as Kendall's friend.
Yes.
We know that she wasn't Kendall's friend because Kendall never went anywhere and never.
She wasn't allowed to have friends.
Wasn't allowed, but anyway, that she was introduced as Kendall's friend, and I think eventually, Kendall was glad to have her, to have somebody else in the house other than Brandon.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I met her. She was like interested in art. Mm-hmm. And seemed like a really nice girl who was had some art visions, an art teacher or something like that.
And, I know Kendall, I think, my impression of her time with Brendan, she was very quiet. Jessica was not.
No, she could talk to you.
Right.
Very confrontational. So
Yeah.
if she wanted to ask a question, she definitely would do it.
Yeah.
If she was very passionate in her wanting you to understand what she wanted, I guess. I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
Right.
When Kendall had her, or went into the hospital to have her baby, of course, they didn't tell me anything or anybody else. But I found out that she was at Oconee, and I went up there and told the lady that at the front desk that my granddaughter was there and having a baby, and I want to go up and see her. So she said, sure, give me a pass. And I went up and walked in, and Jessica was, what are you doing here? You can't just come up here. You weren't invited. And of course, Kendall just lay there and didn't say much of anything. And but then we went up, and they said we couldn't see the baby.
Brandon blocked us
And
from going to see Kendall or the baby.
So Jessica finally, I think it was Cody maybe, that our brother that went up, and she said, well, he can come in and see him. And then they allowed us to come in and see him, and wanted to know if we wanted to hold her. I mean, she was directing everything that was going on. So
Jessica was.
Jessica.
Do you have any idea what Jessica, what her understanding of Brandon and Kendall's relationship was? Or,
My understanding was that he introduced her as his sister.
That Kendall was
His sister.
his sister,
okay.
and Jessica came aboard.
But of course, over time that changed.
Yeah, and she knew 100% that, Kendall was having a baby with Brandon. There was no secret love child whatsoever,
Nope.
which rumors are inaccurate in that way. She knew the whole time. I mean, she was like, yeah, Kendall's pregnant. She would come over. If I wanted to have conversations with Kendall about it, because at the time I didn't know Jessica was pregnant, she would follow her and listen to her as well. So she knew 100%, what was going on.
Now, Jessica, Kendall's baby arrived in was February? March. And Jessica was pregnant around the same time, due
About
around.
a minute difference. Yeah. They would be
Okay.
about different.
And this was with Brandon's baby. She did ultimately end up, the baby was born, stillborn. Did Jessica ever talk to you about her pregnancy?
So when I met her, first it was like, they were finding Christmas gifts for each other and stuff, but she kind of slipped up and said that she had Medicaid too. And I said, well, how old are you? And she said, I'm the same age as Kendall. And I said, how old are you? Because I knew that in South Carolina, if you were, over the age of 18, that definitely you couldn't have Medicaid unless you were pregnant or nursing. And so that was a red flag to me right there, but I didn't know for sure that she was pregnant, but I just kept going, what's y'all's relationship, you and Brandon? And he said, oh, he's Kendall's friend. He goes, but now she's my friend too. So that kind of told that little piece right there. Plus, when the police came, I said, well, if you're over 18, they cannot force you to go back, because the mom had actually got the police to come and get her from the pool house. And so I'm like, what's the deal there? And she said, well, I'm just used to the police doing what the police tell me to do. And I said, so this has happened before? So I didn't know what was going on. But she proceeded to tell me that she was escaping from, a home life she didn't want to be in. And I'm like, okay, well, if there is indeed something going on, she can't stay here, but she needs to tell the police or get help or, go to a shelter or whatever. And then later she told me that she got a little bit bigger and bigger. And then later she was, I just said, are you pregnant with Brandon's baby also? I mean, it just
It just right.
fit.
It's the elephant in the room,
And she said yes. And Brandon, of course, heard everything because Kendall was always required to have her phone on or Bluetooth or headphones around her neck or something. So he constantly had surveillance.
He would shut down any communication that he didn't approve of. And I mean, just immediately hang up and whatever, or come over and interrupt.
And she Jessica would even wear bigger clothes. It's like she was trying to cover up things as well. So I'm just like, okay. Oh my goodness.
What is happening?
Yeah.
Now, when Kendall was able to come up on her birthday briefly, that is when Jessica and Brandon got married.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they did that while she was out of town.
On her birthday, while she was up visiting us.
Okay, so Kendall and Brandon in July of 2023 went and got a marriage license, but they never actually got married. No minister signed off on that. They didn't return it back to.
No.
So they are not legally married, but Jessica and Brandon did the same thing. They did get married.
Yes.
Okay.
They got a certificate.
Okay. But so they did that. Brandon did that well. Kendall was out of town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was okay. That was great with me because I'm just like, hey, I mean, we were even discussing, hey, maybe we can push them together so they can get out.
Right.
Kendall alone. That's fine. And the whole time I was like, Kendall, I mean, she wasn't raised like that, but we're just like, whatever you do, I know you're pregnant now, but I know you're always used to having a mom and a dad raise a child. And that's the way our faith base is raised. But do not marry him. He is not a good person. You deserve so much better. And thank goodness, I guess she made that decision on her own.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely. I mean, doing what she could do. Did you, while she was with him, did you get any signs that there was physical abuse?
I was there most of the time, and to be honest, Kendall always wore long sleeves, even in the summer. So there was not anything for me to see to say that she had been abused. Emotionally and psychologically, he was abusive to anybody that was in ear distance.
The neighbors.
The neighbors, me, Kendall. In fact, one day I heard him rant and raving. I thought there's 4 sailors out there. Sounded like cussing, and I went to see what was going on and saw that Brandon was cussing and lambasting Kendall. So I just opened the door and went in, and I punched him, and I said, hey, you don't talk to my granddaughter like that. So at the time, he quit. But we were outside a couple of weeks later, and he said, you remember coming in and punching me and telling me I couldn't talk to your granddaughter like that? I said, I sure do, and I meant every word of it. He said, you lucky to be alive. I said, well, if you plan on doing something about it, you better make sure you get it done the first time, because there won't be a second time.
And he would, I mean, psychologically, emotionally, I mean, he would demean her and humiliate her. I mean, like he, in front of her, is just like, did she ever have, like, has she ever been diagnosed with autism, or does she have some type of mental health issues? Because she's really like, I mean, and he would just sit there and put her down in front of other people, but asking me the question. And he even had the audacity to start talking about her genitalia in front of her, me, and whoever was around. Yes. And I know that he was just trying to
Get a
get
rise. Get a
to get a
reaction.
get
That
a
was,
reaction
yeah.
from me, because I wanted to kill him. But I mean, I knew that he was a narcissist. I knew that if I showed that, that reaction of what I really felt, he would be in control of me. He would win. I couldn't let him do that.
He talked like he knew how to control women for some reason, and that's the only people he surrounded himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one day he and Jessica and Kendall tagged along, came over and said, "Ron, we've decided to let you see the baby, but somebody will have to be with you." I said, "What's the deal?" I said, I took care of Kendall and Cody for 2 years. Why have I got to be supervised?" He said, "I don't want you changing her diaper." I said, I blew it. I said, "Well, for that fact, I don't want you changing her diaper either." He grabbed them up and said, "Get out of here." Took them back over to the house, and I said, "Well, I guess I blew the opportunity to get to see my great-granddaughter."
So,
But, I just had to respond.
and when you were able to see Kendall, when she was not with Brandon, you were saying she would have, her phone on so that he could listen to what she was saying.
He required her to, yes.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
he would, I remember you were telling me that when he would work, he would make her go and sit at work.
With the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she was pregnant. I mean, 8, 9 months pregnant, even up to that point. She had been long shifts. And at one point, she was working 2 jobs. Then she had to go when she was pregnant and sit at his place of employment, whatever it was, because he had.
He hardly worked at all.
Yeah.
He made her work and make the money.
Yeah. But he would make her so he could see where she was, and he'd have control over her, even though she was exhausted, and being pregnant, sitting there waiting for him to finish the shift. It was just crazy. And then he required her to go back to work postpartum at 4 weeks when she wasn't even cleared by the doctor. And she had worked 2 jobs.
So she just, she didn't really have an opportunity to speak up or.
She's very submissive. She's very quiet and reserved, and she's not confrontational.
Right.
She's just, and he belittled her. I mean, he put her down to a shell of a person where she had no voice.
It broke our heart that she couldn't be with her baby. But we celebrated that at work she was away from his influence and hopefully would connect with healthy people.
Right.
And have a healthier mind. But I can't imagine being away from my baby, And,
I've seen some people comment, well, why didn't you just kick them out of the pool house? For you, your concern was if you kicked Brandon out of the pool house,
he would take her.
Right.
She'd disappear.
To answer part of that question, a year earlier, in fact, July of the year before, I went up and talked with Chief Crosby about basically how could I get rid of Brandon. He said, "Evict him. I'll do it tomorrow. All you got to do is sign the papers." I said, "But you don't understand the situation. If I evict him and Jessica, he will take Kendall, and who knows where they'll be. And I said, I can't do that because I need to know that she's safe. Well, a year later, I went back up, which was this past July, and talked to the chief, and he said, "You didn't listen to me last year, did you?" I said, "No, and I'm not going to listen to you again if you're suggesting that I kick my granddaughter out just to get rid of him." So,
Your hands were
And
tied.
even prior to that, in the state of North Carolina, I reached back out to the investigator that found Kendall. That was June, and this year, 24. Well, now it's 25, but 24. And I was like, "Hey, this is the situation. The same guy. All that documentation I gave you about Maine, about the DVO, about all this stuff about his violence, his erratic behaviors, blah, blah, blah." I said, "I need that because we need to get him out. And I need that to prove to the police." And they were like, "No, you're going to have to hire a lawyer." I said, "I'm the one that provided the documentation for you. You need to give me that information so I can get it back." And he's like, "I can give you what the public can see." So we went to the police department, got that, went back to Pendleton. But again, then we'd have to get a lawyer and, things kind of like things that happened, obviously, rapidly once again before we could even get all that in place.
Right.
But I mean, he just said, even the one in North Carolina, there's nothing we can do unless any of the girls say they're being abused. And in a domestic violence situation, they're not going to volunteer. And I will say this as well. Jessica called 911 twice to the property. One was with Kendall's phone and one was with her phone. But she always said it was accidental when the police arrived. So they didn't, I guess, probably write it up as anything because Brandon was standing right behind her.
Right.
Of course, Kendall was at work because she was always working. But yeah, I mean, DSS came. I mean, lots of different things when things were going on with Jessica. But she never said, "He's doing this to me." I mean, we didn't know either, but I'm just saying the police, we reached out. They reached out, but a abused victim is not going to say, "He's doing this to me, help me." That's just not what they do.
That's a part of the problem with the system and with the prosecuting attorney made the statement in our bond hearing, "Well, you must not have been too afraid of him. You lived with him for 2 months after he killed Jessica." Well, I won't say that. I'm not going to call him what he is, but they don't understand that a victim that's been beat down and abused and
has a child she wants to protect.
All the time she was at work, he had her daughter. And so he knew she was going to come back. And he knew, and probably, in my opinion, told her, if you say a word, you'll never see your daughter again. And I've already said he threatened me. So I have no doubt that whether it was verbalized officially, like, "You do this and I'm going to kill you," she knew what was going to happen.
Do you think that Kendall could have gotten, after Jessica died, she could have gotten out with the baby safely?
No. Not a chance.
I mean, he even killed animals. He dismembered them and put them on Jessica's sisters, like for her birthday. There were several cats that were murdered.
We rescued 2 dogs that he was going to send to the
kill shelter.
And so
we
now
rescued them. I
have an awesome dog now that we're raising.
I mean, he said, I accidentally stepped on one in the middle of the night, so it died. Another one had like a hair tie wrapped around it. The cat does not wrap a hair tie around it to where it cuts off the circulation and dies. No. I mean, one got caught in the couch and I guess, sat on it or something. There were burn spots all over the carpet. I mean, Cookie, what I was saying about verbatim, he killed her daughter's dog, and a social worker said that he had to be out because of that. I mean, everything he did was crazy. He also, he took Kendall's money.
She worked and he stole it through an Apple account or something, and just
she had her check automatically deposited into her account, and I've got records. You can go back, and a day or two after her check went in, it went out to an Apple account. And I've asked her, did she authorize that? And she said no. So, I mean, he controlled everything, every part of her life, in my opinion.
I mean, everything was cut off, her friends, her family, everything. But you know what? We were persistent. We had him there. But I will say this, church was a lifesaver, and he knew that was important to her. In fact, he even said, I'll get baptized with you because I know this is important to you and will be seen holy in God's eyes.
He got baptized with her.
But then he was just like, no more church. And then when she did go to church, she convinced him, and I think Jessica went a couple of times too.
He'd drive right on by.
Well, before that, there was a safe room that only mamas and babies could go to. Okay. And that was so that mamas could nurse and that kind of thing. She reached out to me, and then she was cut off. But she was like through an app that's just like, I said, is this really you? And she's like, yes, can I come home? I'm like, of course.
That is right before they took the phone.
Yeah.
And then were arrested. Then went through all the stuff to find out where Jessica was. We had thought Jessica was escaped, that she was out there safe away from him. But we had no idea. And when he took them to Colorado, we thought that was probably the last time we'd see her. Praise God for a tracker on a car. Yes. But that scared us. We thought we'd never see her.
And the police talked about them being a flight risk. The prosecution talked about them being a flight risk. I wanted to jump up and say, who gave y'all the information? I did. I went to see Chief Crosby and told him where they were, and he asked, would I provide him the tracking information? I said, sure. So
he did the work.
They had
their work.
They had every minute that they were gone. They knew exactly where they were.
With Brenda's car as well as Kendall's car.
And when they got back, they asked me again, could I provide them with the tracking information for both cars, because they were in Kendall's car. And I said, sure, whatever you need. Guess what? That's how they found out where Jessica was.
That's the I think that is the only way they ever would have found her.
And Daddy had ringer surveillance cameras around too, to make sure he could see if when Kendall went to work, when Kendall made it home, that kind of thing too. Because when he at times wouldn't allow them to come out, until she had to go to work or whatever. I mean, it was like, did anybody come out today? No. And then we just wanted to make sure somebody was alive,
If he hadn't been arrested for Jessica's murder, do you think Kendall was in danger?
Manson. he would have continued on. Not just Kendall, but a lot more. No question about it.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Kendall was just a lucky survivor. I mean, we found out too that, I mean, he did non-fatal strangulation on her. Unfortunately, Jessica did not survive it, so it was strangulation. But non-fatal strangulation is done the same way, except she didn't die.
Right.
And she's had emergency. She was taken to the emergency room in the hospital for stroke-like symptoms. And
due to the vertebral narrowing of the artery of the neck, which is trauma caused by non-fatal strangulation. And this was not congenital. It was not a birth defect. I know that 100%. They, as triplets, had all these CTs and cardiologists and different specialists that, you know, made sure every part of them was totally fine and there weren't any defects. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
So they did. Jessica's attorney filed for a bond. The judge did hear it, but denied it. He said he was willing to hear it again after 90 days. After more evidence comes in and more known about the case, if Kendall were able to get out, she would be able to, what would be her plans?
Come to the house and live with me.
And be with her baby.
Right.
She needs her baby. That's part of her mental health and spiritual health and growth. And right now, her in jail, seeing them through a glass, well, that's just so sad, considering she's a victim. A victim.
Yeah.
There's no sympathy for victims. People don't want to know the truth. They just lump them all in a category.
Right.
And there's no flight risk. I mean, first of all, she's never been in trouble in her whole life. She doesn't speak up for herself, but her child and her family is here.
It is amazing, by the way.
We come on the weekends. Awesome. So yes, we may live in North Carolina, but she wouldn't take that chance. And we come here.
Right.
There's no way. That's why the child is staying with him, except on the weekends when we come down and try to help out. And we have community, we have friends, we have everybody,
family,
church people all around here,
right,
and willing to be with her as well as my dad. And she would never be left alone. I mean, there would always be somebody there because we need to make sure she has the proper psychological, mental, emotional, and physical, type support.
Right. And she
yes.
hasn't, when she was arrested, she hasn't really been allowed to be a mom on her terms.
Oh, no.
No.
I remember, I think it was Jessica's mom told me that, she had asked to hold the baby and Kendall said, well, I have to ask Brandon. And she wasn't allowed to make any decisions as a mother.
Every time I went over and asked to see the baby, Kendall would say, I have to ask Brandon.
It's your baby.
Right.
there was no partake of being a father.
Right.
Yeah. It was a property and an ownership of this is mine, this is control. It was just another form of control for her.
And if he said no, she'd say, well, Brendan says no.
Right. It's just, I think it's just, it's sad. It's sad. I know Jessica's family is just, they have gone through so much. And I know
our prayers are out to them.
Yeah. But I know you're advocating for your daughter as well, who, she's survived. She survived this. And Jessica wasn't so fortunate. She didn't get out alive. Is there anything, before we wrap up, anything that, you want to say about Kendall, about what your family has gone through?
She is, if Kendall tried to leave or at least tried to speak up for herself or her child at the time, she would not be alive. There's no doubt in my mind, and I know that Jessica probably tried to leave, which she deserved to get out. They all deserve to get out, but unfortunately, it's I just want victims to all have a voice.
Right.
This monster should not win. And even if they, pray they convict him, but it's not fair for the people that are his victims to also be, given the same type punishment.
Right. Right. It's, where does the line get drawn? Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me. I think that I think Kendall's story is an important part of this bigger picture and an important part of, what happened to Jessica. And I appreciate you taking the time to tell me it.
And this journey's not over. I mean, she's still not home, and her baby needs her and stuff. So anything we can do to help her get out and to help her heal and to help these other victims heal, we're here.